I'm Eric Pierce, publisher with BioCentury. BioCentury is a proud sponsor of the Galien Forum and also the Pre-Galien USA Awards ceremony. I'm here with Dr. Mark McClellan, who really does not need any introduction, but for those who do, Dr. Mark McClellan is a director, and Robert J. Margolis, professor of business, medicine, and health policy at Duke. He's also the former administrator of CMS and also former commissioner of the FDA, where he developed and implemented major policies, major reforms in healthcare policy. Dr. McClellan, welcome.
Eric, good to be with you.
Thank you. There's been a lot of talk recently, especially with the election, about value-based pricing for drugs and new pharmaceuticals. When you were at CMS, that was one of your key initiatives, and the industry kind of backed away from that. I'd like to talk to you about what CMS and the industry can do to help really move the value-based pricing paradigm forward.
Well, great question. We did pilot some new approaches in Medicare to try to tie payments more to quality and value, paying healthcare providers more when they keep overall costs down and improve important outcomes and aspects of quality of care for the populations they serve. And you're right that it has been slow going, and it hasn't really come directly to the pharmaceutical industry. We are part of an effort called the Healthcare Payment Learning and Action Network. We announced the results of what was the first national survey of a large part of the healthcare payments in the United States, and found that the so-called alternative payment models, where you pay at least in part based on the results that you're getting, now account for about 25% or more of payments in the U.S. Now that's 25% of payments to healthcare providers and growing steadily. It's a much smaller percentage of pharmaceuticals. But I think we're now approaching kind of a critical mass in these models, where it's going to be harder and harder for pharmaceutical manufacturers to stay out of it. I think we're also seeing a lot more examples of efforts by manufacturers to get engaged in value-based approaches, where they're taking more steps to identify the particular subgroups of patients who really respond to their drugs, where they are entering into contracts with payers and PBMs, where the rebates depend not on the volume of drugs sold, but on the actual impact on controlling diseases, like getting cholesterol levels down,
surrogate markers,
preventing fractures. Yes, the markers of what we really care about with drugs. And I think there's a lot that manufacturers could do to help facilitate these models and make sure that we're really paying for valuable innovations, whether it's valuable innovations in pharmaceuticals or valuable innovations in the way that we deliver care to make it more convenient and better for patients.
Yeah, you bring up an interesting point, which is the non-drug spend, which is the vast majority of where our healthcare dollars go. Except, and you flip the coin on the other side, and there's a lot of ranting and raving about the drug price cost.
Yeah.
How do industry stakeholders fix that paradigm? It seems to be a lot of money going into one side of it, and obviously drug prices are quite high. But there's also that other side of it, which is, hospital costs far exceeding what the drug costs are.
Yeah, drugs are still a minority of overall costs, and the real concern from a policy standpoint isn't what percentage is drugs, what percentage is other stuff. It's what percentage of healthcare spending is not efficient. What percentage of healthcare spending represents dollars, billions of dollars, that could be spent better. And the unfortunate part about this debate of everybody pointing fingers at each other is that there's some real opportunities that drugs could be used more effectively to bring down other costs, and we're not capitalizing on some of those opportunities because of the way that we pay, and because we're trying to control costs just by squeezing down prices. And I can tell you that we will see more of that kind of response if we don't do a better job of paying more when we get better care, whether it's for drugs or for other services.
How has the industry done in terms of making that, having those pods of paying people communicate better and understand, the larger picture of the value of a drug and health service?
That's another area, Eric, where I've got some optimism. There has been some real progress through kinds of public-private partnerships, efforts supported by FDA, CMS, NIH, a lot of collaboration and support from the the private sector, from the health plans, the healthcare organizations that hold all of this critical data that can help us learn a lot more about which patients benefit from treatments and learn a lot more about less costly but equally or more effective ways to treat diseases. So initiatives like the FDA Sentinel program, which now does close to real-time surveillance on safety issues with drugs, initiatives that are building out real-world registries for devices. These are coming, and I hope we can see more of it. We talked before about shifting the way that we pay for drugs so that it's more based on results. Those kinds of financial supports would make it easier.
With respect to just belling back to the election and the political climate, does the biopharma community need to reposition itself, assuming there's a continued shift of power from the Congress to the executive branch?
Well, I think regardless of what happens with the election, we're talking about true fundamentals here. Over the last couple of decades, AIDS, hepatitis C, many types of cancer have had remarkable improvements in treatment, if not cures, at least truly effective treatments that convert what had been fatal conditions into chronic diseases. That's going to hopefully continue, but it has been marked by higher spending. These are often very valuable treatments. So regardless of who wins, regardless of the short-term politics, if we don't find a better way to spend that money well, to make sure that we're really focusing on treatments that are effective, that's a challenge, I think, first and foremost for the pharmaceutical industry.
Yeah, absolutely. Dr. McClellan, thank you very much.
Great to talk with you.
Yeah, likewise.